What's up guys, Houndish here, and today it's time for some Destiny 2 news. So we're going to jump in and talk about a bunch of content inside of the game this week. We've got a new step in the quest for the Thunderlord, and specifically I want to talk about a pretty cool Easter egg inside of this week's quest step. With a further hint to the conclusion of this quest, we're going to talk about the recent hotfix. We have a new Trials of the 90s, Morro has an interesting visitor this week, and we've got a bunch of roundups and stuff to talk about from Bungie regarding content for this season and future seasons. Some things that are definitely worth taking note of, a new challenge inside of the Last Wish raid, new classified rewards, and a bunch of other stuff to talk about guys, so if you do enjoy this video, a rating below is super appreciated. But now, let's jump straight into it. So first up, yesterday on the weekly reset, we had some new content in the game. We also had a hotfix, you may be wondering what that was for, and it was to fix an issue where some players were unable to access the Lost Cryptarch quest, so nothing super exciting, but if you have been impacted by the bug where you can't pick up the quest, you'll now finally be able to do so. On the subject of that quest though, of course, we had the second step this week. I spoke about it in the reset video, but there is also a pretty cool Easter egg to talk about in just a second. For this week's quest step though, you'll simply have to complete 3 lost sectors in the Trustland in the European Dead Zone. So there is the Atrium Lost Sector, Terminus East, and Widow's Walk. There are 3 lost sectors that you can see on the map across the Trustland. Once you've done those though, you will have to complete the Whispered Falls Lost Sector, and this one's in the outskirts of the European Dead Zone. And basically for any of these, when you're actually completing them, all you need to do is simply kill the boss and loot the chest for it to count. But when you're in the Whispered Falls Lost Sector, after you've killed the boss, over here you can actually see Master Ives' robes are strung up on this kind of spike. You've also got some fallen sigils right there. And of course we know the fallen are responsible for perpetrating this crime. And considering Ives' cloak is strung up right there, I'm guessing things are not looking too good for our friend. But of course next week we should finally have the last step. And according to data mines, we are going to be returning to a mission in the Cosmodrome, which is going to be really cool. Retrieving the Thunderlord exotic machine gun, the first machine gun in Destiny 2. And of course, if we don't hear about a DLC this week, it makes it even more likely that the reveal for Black Armory could run alongside the conclusion of this quest next week. But of course, we'll have to wait and find out. Something else really interesting inside of the game this week though, is that Morro has a pretty curious visitor. So spoiler alert, I'm going to run a clip of this week's visit to Morro's Throne World, so check this out.
If that's so, I accept their terms. Move the asset into position beyond the grave of the First Fleet. And do remind them, I have shown more than enough patience. It was a friend once, a confidant. Now it is a shell. Avoid falling into schemes of the Nine. Like the curse on my people, their games never end. All this, and we find ourselves at the whims of so many small minds. Leave now. My next audience does not find the presence of the travelers chosen to be respectful.
So of course we are seeing the Emissary of the Nine speaking to the Queen right there, which is pretty interesting. And we learned that the Emissary was actually once an Awoken, as well as a close friend of Morro's. And if you look at some of the lore in the game, we learned that the Emissary of the Nine was formerly known as Orin. And there are references from Shirachi in the Dreaming City on the subject of Orin, and they say that Orin actually stole several Queensfall plants before actually fleeing the Awoken. And then of course Orin became associated with and shared the interests of the Nine, which is certainly pretty interesting stuff. Of course this may be a hint to Trials of the Nine that we're expecting to return to the game at some point. Bungie have said that they're revamping Trials for a future season, and considering how long this has been away and some of the community requests, you know, for 3v3 Trials, an experience perhaps more similar to Trials of Osiris that we had back in the day, and of course new rewards, it's certainly going to be pretty interesting when Trials of the Nine returns. But it's super cool to see the Emissary speak with the Queen. You can check this out yourself with the Oracle offering this week, and be sure to let me know your thoughts or speculation about this down in the comment section. Now though, let's touch on a bunch of roundups and information from Bungie, and we get some pretty useful stuff about future seasons, content which will still be available, and content which crosses over to future seasons. So Robbie Stevens from Bungie said, the Gambit Ghost sold by the Drifter requires 3 infamy resets, and those resets can occur across multiple seasons. Don't fret if you don't think you can hit all 3 resets during Season 4. So Bungie just clarifying that the rewards for Gambit will remain the same going into the next season. So if you're working on the Dredge and Title, infamy resets, any of that stuff, your progress continues, and you're not going to lose opportunities to acquire acquire any of these items. And that's actually the same for competitive as well, so Kevin Yanis from Bungie confirmed that the Pinnacle weapon quests will live on as they currently are across multiple seasons, and this is for the PvP quests, things like Luna's Howl, Not Forgotten, and Redrix's Broadsword. But he does confirm we have no plans to reintroduce weapons the way we did with the Broadsword, so things like Luna's Howl won't be updated in the next season and become easier to obtain, or have different objectives or anything like that. The quests as they are right now will simply remain the same. The only thing to take note of course, is that Valor points inside of competitive will reset at the beginning of a new season. So the only progress you may lose would be Valor points as we cross the threshold into a new season. Otherwise, all of the quests will carry over. It's definitely good confirmation because of course, last season, that wasn't quite how it worked. But somebody asked, can we look into why we're getting the same Nightfall, the Hollowed Lair, for 4 or 5 weeks in a row? And Cosmo did say, we're looking into it, thanks. There's a bit of mixed feedback on Hollowed Lair. Some folks are really happy because they can continue to farm, but equally, of course, folks want other drops as well. Cosmo did also confirm they're still investigating the guitar error in the Last Wish raid. Speaking of the Last Wish raid though, there is a new raid challenge, and this is the Keep Out challenge. Of course, Hawthorne offers a weekly bounty, and this one is for a new challenge mode in the Vault encounter. So of course you have the big knights that spawn during the encounter, and they spawn in the kind of side wing rooms where the ads are, and then they head towards the middle area. And essentially, to complete this challenge, you simply have to kill the knights before they leave the side wings that they spawn in. So honestly, this one is relatively easy to get done. Our team simply had our defenders actually stay in the side wings as opposed to stand in the middle and shoot ads from there. And of course, the barriers in the rooms drop down, so whenever you're going to have knights spawn, you definitely want to have the defenders on the right side of the wall to essentially kill the knights as soon as they spawn in. At high levels, and if you're used to running this encounter, it doesn't really change all that much. You just have to stay near to where the knights will spawn. There are a few different weapons that you can use as well. Of course, the Ikella shotgun's really good, but also Legend of Acreus is really good because it stuns the knights. We also had folks using things like tractor cannon. You definitely want up close weapons to just stun them and melt them down as quickly as possible. But if you can run the whole encounter without any of the knights passing the threshold into the middle of the room, then you'll complete this week's Keep Out raid challenge. Also on the subject of new content, there is actually a new spider bounty this week. So it's the weekly bounty and it's called Arcadian Accord. So it's actually a new one on Nessus. My pal Marvel Freak sent me a clip of this one. You can see you've got a big Minotaur, and like any other spider bounty, you take him down, and then you get your rewards, but absolutely, it's worth running this one. This bounty has a pretty good drop chance for exotics in general, as well as the Lord of Wolves, so don't sleep on it if you're hunting for new exotics. Just a quick shout right here for anybody interested in acquiring the Chronicler Seal, that of course gives you the title, Chronicler. Lowcorps on Reddit did put up a really useful post, breaking down all of the lore books that you actually need to collect in order to unlock this seal. There are a total of 10 lore books in the game that you actually have to pick up. The post has some additional info on some triumphs that you'll need to unlock in this process as well. So if that's interesting to you guys, be sure to check it out down below. Also, we have Tangled Shore as the flashpoint this week, so there are extra opportunities to pick up some of the lore and stuff in that location. Next though, there are a few things that folks are still hunting down in the game which are pretty interesting. And those would include Wish 15 in the Last Wish raid, so still we don't have any progress on these two wishes. And especially Wish 15 is a particularly interesting one. Some of the other wishes were actually found through data mining. However, Wish 15 hasn't been found in the game, and nobody is able to find any files in the game, which suggests that it's possibly not actually present right now. But the description for Wish 15 is this one you shall cherish, and that's from Riven of 1,000 Voices. That's also the only wish that has a direct quote from Riven. Of course, it says we shall cherish it, so it seems like that's going to be a pretty interesting one. It could do something pretty cool, but of course it could be locked behind future content. Maybe something in the Black Armory, could even be hidden in the future Cosmodrome mission if that's going to be a thing. But there's quite a lot of stuff that we're very curious about at the moment. Of course, we are waiting for the reveal of Black Armory. We're slowly hunting down the Thunderlord. We know that there's going to be an event called Arms Week, clearly being built up by Bungie. Trials, as we spoke about, as well as faction rallies, are both being reworked. And even in the game right now, there is new classified armor sets in Forsaken. You can see right here that we've got an updated armor set. Originally, this was PlayStation exclusive armor, but it actually has these new kind of dark skins and Forsaken icons on it, but we can't see the names because they are classified. These came in Festival of the Lost, but considering they are new visuals, we're almost certainly going to get them in the game. So there's a lot of content that we're waiting for right now, and hopefully it won't be too long before we get more news and information. But for today, guys, that is going to summarize the video. Love to hear your thoughts on the Thunderlord quest and the progress so far. At least next week is going to be a pretty exciting one if we actually get the weapon. Pretty cool lore stuff this week with Mara's Throne World and the Emissary of the Nine. Some new challenges, bounties and stuff like that. So let me know any stuff you're jumping in and completing this week. But if you have enjoyed this video, guys, a like below is super appreciated. It really helps me out on the channel. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more Destiny 2 content. Also turn on notifications if you want to keep up to date with everything related to Destiny 2 immediately. You can check out my sponsor Into the AM, who have some awesome clothing in their store. They designed some really cool graphic shirts, hoodies, banners, various accessories, and more. And you can save 10% in their store using code Houndish. So if that stuff looks interesting to you guys, you can check it out in the link below. But as always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you have an awesome day.